What's up, everyone? My name is Brooke Hogg, and I'm the mental coach. And I want to welcome you to the Sit Down. Today, I'm sitting down with the head coach of the Atascocita Boys High School basketball team, Coach David Martinez. So, Coach, welcome, and thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Thank you, Brooke. I'm glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So, Coach, 20 plus years you've been coaching. You started playing basketball yourself. So can you take us on a journey from playing basketball up until now?
Yeah, I'm in my 50s now, so basketball has literally been a part of my life for 46 years. That's a long time,
Wow.
right? And so either as a player or as a coach, I've been involved with the game in some type of organized fashion. So, I fell in love with the game. I grew up a baseball player. That's what my parents grew me to be. And then I just fell in love with the game. I'm probably showing my age right here, but I'll never forget for Christmas, all I wanted for Christmas when I was young, when I was a small kid, I wanted a Dr. J indoor hoop. Those listening that are around similar age, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It was the only one that was sold in the stores, and I wanted it so bad and that's kind of what sparked my interest. And once I got it and started playing on that, as I started growing and going outside playing with my friends, it was just so much fun and enjoyment, and it just made me feel good. It kept me out of trouble. I was able to meet new friends and friends that are lifelong friends, and the ball has literally taken me a lot of places around the country and met some great people and people that are considered extended family. So all the way up into my coaching career. So now that I'm towards, I don't know if I would actually call it the end of my coaching career, but now that I'm tenured, a lot of what I do now outside of coaching is mentor young people that want to get into coaching, and I'm starting to enjoy that. So the one thing about this job is that for the last 20 plus years, I've been doing this 25 years, 20 as a head coach, but the one thing that doesn't change is the age. So for the last 25 years, I've been coaching and teaching the age 14 to 18. And so the same issues, they just kind of recycle. So, it's just getting a little easier and easier, but it's also getting tougher and tougher too.
Okay. And would you say that the tough part of that is due to just the times that we're in and just looking at, what kids are that age are having to kind of deal with?
Oh, there's no doubt. And it's something that I actually try to teach my kids, and I try to educate their parents as well. Not everybody gets this, but before you can play basketball, let's start here. Basketball is a team sport, okay? And it's a team sport. It was always meant to be a team sport. You have to play it with more than one person. And this happened when I was coming up too, but it's even more prevalent now. But people just want to take from the game. They just want to take. What can I get from basketball? And what they don't realize is that's not how the game was created. Yes, some people hit the jackpot just like anything else and they make it big, but the beauty and the purity of the game is that we get to play together, and there's beauty in that, and so now the emphasis with the addition of social media and trainers and all of this outside influence that these kids are getting, it's a lot of pressure on the kid, and it's a lot of pressure on the parent, because at the end of the day, parents are looking at it as a time slot that's just they're running out of time the older they get, right? So you invest all this money in this time when they're young, and all of a sudden they're getting old, and that meter's not moving much. Or maybe they haven't improved, or maybe that's just not going to work out. And so they start to feel the pressure, okay? The parent feels the pressure, then the kid feels the pressure, and then if you don't have a plan B, now you start resorting into other things to try to offset that, and you're scrambling to try to find a way to make a living or figure out how you're going to accomplish the next step in life. So a lot of pressure in sports right now.
Okay. And I would definitely agree with you. And so do you have any type of I guess I don't want to call it a system, but just a way to check in with your players mentally, just to make sure that they are, mentally strong enough to handle not only just the pressures of academics and the pressures of home life and the pressures of the social media piece and just social life period, but then also coming in here, in this area and being able to kind of block that out. And then, as you mentioned, play as a team and kind of just being able to mentally be present here and understanding what that means and how they should perform individually so that as a team, they can excel.
Yeah, the basis of our foundation is family, okay? And so we coach our kids hard. We hold them accountable. We want them to be good people. Not all of them are going to become professional basketball players. In fact, very few do. And so we want, when they leave here and they go off and they go to whatever college they're going to go to or pursue whatever career they're going to pursue or become fathers and husbands and all that, we want them to have experienced some things either through conversation with us where they know they can always come back to us. Right? Even if it's just to talk, to ask for advice, to know that we're always here for them. That part is it's really tricky because you're talking about a lot of different individuals, a lot of teenagers, and the one thing about teenagers is the light bulb all pops on at different times. Just because you're 16 doesn't mean you're grown man status yet, right? And so it just depends. Some of them hit the maturity level different stages than others. Some of them it takes to 18 before you can actually have an adult conversation with them. And so we do like to talk to our kids a lot. We like to share messages, constantly using examples. A big example right now is what's going on social media with Ja Morant. So we talk about what do you think about that? Is it a good thing to do? What are the positives that can happen from that? What are the negatives that can happen from that? And just kind of have an open dialogue with them, so they have somebody that's an adult that can kind of share or steer them in different directions. Because kids when they're teenagers, they're very influential, and with the social media deal, and they're spending a lot of time on their phones, and it's what they see. And if you don't try to correct them or at least show them right or wrong, they're going to make that decision on their own, okay? And so we just try to be a positive influence in their life.
Okay, and that's definitely good, and I know you see it as well as, we all see it. This generation definitely needs great role models like yourself and other teachers and other coaches that are thinking about them, and helping them to understand that they have to take care of themselves first before they can come and perform and play for you and even perform in the classroom. So that is good to know that is something that you do with your athletes. Do you or have you, how have you seen mental health change in the years, like when you first started, like even, back when you were playing, as a high school player yourself, like how have you seen it evolve from that point until now?
Just the pressure that's put on these kids to try to earn a scholarship. A lot of parents put all their eggs in one basket, and then there's no plan B. It's kind of the burn the ship theory where, hey, this is all we got. This is, if you don't get to earn a scholarship, then I don't know what we're going to do with you. That actually exists. Okay, then you have different types of pressures. Now we're dealing with this NIL stuff. We're dealing with the transfer portal. There's more options now. Basically college is almost like a free agency. It goes to the highest bidder, and you're competing with different schools now for this kid's services, and there's this kid's likeness of his name that can be sold, and it's just weird. We didn't have that back when I was coming up. We didn't have that when you were in school. This is very new, and what I'm afraid of if the NCAA doesn't come in, and I don't even know if it's legal to come in or not, or constitutional, should I say, but if they don't come in and put some guidelines on this thing, it's going to get out of hand quick, and it's already showing that. It's already showing its hand, but, that's a lot of pressure. High school kids right now, it is really, really hard for high school kids to earn a scholarship. There's hardly any there. If you don't have a star in front of your name, kids are ranked, from 1 star all the way to 5 to no stars. If you don't have a star under your name, the chances of you earning a scholarship at a Division I college are slim to none. Much less 1 star or 2 star. If you don't have 3, 4, or 5 stars in front of your name, the chances of you getting something out of high school now in this time in 2023 is really, really hard. You have to be really, really lucky because these colleges and universities have different options now. They can go straight to the transfer portal and get a kid that's already an adult. Okay, maybe it didn't work out at such and such place. And they have college-ready kids as opposed to high school kids that we talked about maturity a little while ago that aren't quite there yet, mentally and physically. And they can't handle the load. They haven't proven themselves yet. So it's starting to be an older man's game. You're starting to find older players playing college basketball, 23, 24, 25-year-old players on the floor, more so than ever before. And so that's creating pressure in itself. I think that's going to be the new thing, the new talk here in the next year or two, because parents right now and kids are scrambling. They're scrambling, and they're under a lot of pressure to perform. And if they don't perform, well, then now their self-esteem is shot. And your hope is that they have good guidance that can help them through these hard times, or they're going to start looking for other stuff to be codependent on. And I think that's where we're going to have a big problem. And I don't have all the answers to everything. This is just what I see.
No, absolutely, and this is great information. I think that our generation of kids definitely just need to understand that the first step is just talking about mentally what they're going through, talking about the pressures that they're feeling. Like you said, it is a lot of pressure to perform, and then you have so many different areas, like you mentioned, the transfer portal being another pressure added. And NIL and so forth, so on and so forth. So I do think that that if kids do learn to just, attempt to try to talk about how they feel, I do think that would be the first step to help them to kind of alleviate some of that stress, because it is scary and it is very stressful. And then, as we know, they have to also remember to perform well in the classroom as well. And then again, as I've stated, deal with social life as well, at home, with friends, and so on and so forth. So
let me add this, because I think this is important too, and I failed to mention this. I wanted to mention it, but I kind of got away from it. Sure. But, and this can even go back to the previous question you asked me, but I just feel, and I don't have the answers, I'm searching for solutions just like you are. But I feel that a majority of the kids don't play for the love of the sport anymore, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, whatever. They're all playing for something. That's what I was alluding to. And I think, we have to try to get back to play for the love of sport. There's a lot to offer that youth sports has to offer that can help you grow. It can help you mentally. It can help you in all areas of your life. And now we've completely gotten away from, hey, let's go play have some fun. Let me go call my guys up. We're going to go play 3-on-3, or we're going to the park to play. Just good old fashioned, just go have a good time with the fellas and go play. We don't really see that anymore. You can drive around this neighborhood here and there's nobody there. Everybody's going to trainers, or they're going to Lifetime Fitness where it's air conditioned. Nobody drinks out of the water hose anymore. Kids don't go outside and play and be kids. And so, I think part of it is just getting back to the love of sport, okay? And there's been so much pushed on top of that when you peel it all back, you play the game, just like I told you how I grew up. I loved playing it. I was excited about it. It was something that was fun. I didn't play it because I wanted to be on TV. I played it because I got to play with it with my friends. And that's important to kids. They want to just have fun. And then as they grow and you get competitive at it, you just see where the chips fall. But there's no blueprint to success other than good old-fashioned hard work. And even that doesn't guarantee you're going to get what you want out of it, right? It really doesn't. But what it does teach you, it teaches you how to work hard, which is probably the number one thing that any young man or any young woman needs to learn to be successful in life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I know you mentioned that, and we all know this, that, every kid cannot, snag that scholarship, So the kids that you have coached, the kids that you have worked with, and, do you still have a connection with those kids that have actually gotten those scholarships and have went on to play at a collegiate level, maybe even on into a professional level? Do you still have relationships with those?
Yeah, I try to keep a line of communication with those guys. They know when they leave here, I have a saying, they know they're family for life, and I really am in debt to them. And then that means it has nothing to do with basketball. You came through this program, you played for me for 4 years. I owe you more than you know. Okay, I've had to try to teach you discipline. I've had to try to hold you accountable for things that teenagers, tend to sway off the line, right? And I've had to hold you accountable for that. And I've had to love on you, and I've had to take care of you, I've had to discipline you. I've had to do all of that, and it's not easy, right? A lot of times for high school, it's hard to be. I have better relationships with them now that they're not playing for me, and they get it now, right? They get it. But when you're coaching them when they're young like that, they just look at you as the bad guy. And so that's super hard. And I know this firsthand. It's always better to be the assistant, because the assistant kind of takes the blow off a little bit. The head coach is usually the one that lays the hammer. And, they don't get it till they leave. At least most of them don't. There's one or two, the special ones, they kind of get it and they understand, but those are the more mature ones. But for the most part, you're dealing with, again, teenagers, that age group, 14, 15, 16 years old, and outside of their mom and dad disciplining them or not disciplining them, they're having to deal with me, the basketball coach, telling them what they can and what they can't do and what's right and what's wrong. And sometimes that's hard. That's hard to get that, and you really don't get the full scope of that until after they've graduated and they've grown up. We call it, sometimes we refer to it in joking as the frontal lobe, right? Because teenagers, this doesn't develop until mid-20s up till 30 years old. So they think different in everything, right? They're invisible. Nothing ever happens to them. They don't think about it like you and I, like, it looks like there might be a tornado outside. I'm not going outside. Where they're like, man, let's go play. It looks cool out there. And they just don't know how to process that. Yeah, that's not their fault. It's just how we were made. So, kind of comes with it a little bit. Comes with territory.
Okay, and do you ever find yourself, sharing a little bit of your journey? So, for instance, and I'm talking about more specifically that hard work and dedication. So, for instance, you were the head coach at DeSoto High School, and then assistant coach at DeSoto High School. And then you bet on yourself and you chose to apply for a head coach position and you got it. So I know even just with that, I'm not a coach, but I just know that was a lot of hard work. That was a lot of dedication. That was for sure you betting on yourself. So do you ever share a little bit of your journey with them just to help them to understand, like, hey, I may be here at this point, but I've worked, to get it.
And here's how I look at it. Hard work is what you need. You have to have that no matter what you do. You have to have a little luck on your side too. But luck comes with the hard work. The harder you work, the luckier you get. So I try to share that experience with them. And what I found, Brooke, is you have to be really careful when dealing with teenagers and even adults. We live in a day and age where nobody cares what you did, right? It's all what you can do for me. And that's unfortunate, right? And every now and then you'll find somebody who respects the journey you've gone through and wants to know, hey, can you share your blueprint with me? Because it's not all a bed and roses. When I was the assistant at DeSoto, me and the head coach at the time, Coach Dyer, we inherited a team that was 3-27 for 2 years in a row. They're one of the worst teams in the state. And so the first year we're a 500 team. Well, that wasn't good enough for us. You're talking about two guys who were winners. And then the second year we were 500, and so as coaches, we're like, man, when are we ever going to turn the corner? It took 5 years before we turned the corner. And so before that, I struggled because I did think, hey, I've paid my dues, I'm ready to go. I couldn't even get an interview. It took us winning a state championship in 2003 at DeSoto High School as the first assistant to even get an interview. And so I got lucky. We don't win state. Hell, we may not be here talking right now. I may have gone another route. I eventually want to get to where I want to be, but it may have been a different route, right? I don't know that I wind up at Atascocita High School. I may end up somewhere else. But, some people want to hear that journey, but I do know that you got to be really careful about sharing what you did with people. That doesn't really work too much, especially with teenagers. They want to know what you can do for them. And so it kind of goes back to the old adage, nobody really cares what you did, until they know how much you care about them. So you do have to build those relationships and get them to ask you the questions why. But if you start flashing rings in front of their face and this is what I've done and look at me, that doesn't go very far in this day and age.
Right, and that's good information to know. I think that, when you talk about the statement that you just mentioned about what you can do for me, I do agree that is a lot of kind of what this generation of children does think. And I know you've seen this as well, but I do think a lot of times that they think is that it is easy, and that if they do see someone like you or someone else doing it, then hey, I can do it too. But the piece of that is always missing is the hard work part of that, is the dedication, is the journey. So whereas I do, think that, yes, that they want to miss that part of it and they may not want to hear it. But essentially that is what they need to hear to help them. And it's not about them connecting with you to necessarily help them down the line, but it's a connection with you can help them to process things a little better. You know what I mean? And when you talk about that blueprint, it's always the mindset of, I think a lot of times they think that they have to recreate that when essentially you don't have to recreate it. You just can tack on your piece of it, your knowledge, your experience, and just kind of build and expound upon that. And I think that's sometimes get lost. So I definitely think even just with just sitting down with you, just to talk about this very popular topic is something that I'm hoping would reach, reach the students, reach the parents, reach everyone, again, to just understand, hey, the beginning of this starts with just having a conversation and really just thinking about what it is that you are, wanting to do, what it is that you are dealing with, and then just seeing kind of how you feel after that and what is it that you are going to need. Because mentally, as an athlete, the thought is that, you have to be physically in shape only. And you do have to be physically in shape, but mentally you have to also be in shape as well.
Absolutely. And on that note right there, I can say this, mentally in shape, meaning that means you need to learn how to control the thoughts in your mind. You need to learn how to control your breathing. Breathing techniques are important. Those are all things that we're just scratching the surface on. Not even as coaches, but as mental health people, right? Different ways to cope with stress, I think that's going to be kind of a new topic now that's going to be really, really important. Having somebody to talk to who's an expert in mental health, trying to work their way through these days and these times that we're living in. The COVID experience with us kind of set us back a little bit. People don't realize that, we had a group of kids, young adults, that were locked up in a house in between walls and they weren't socializing. I now realize how important just socialization is for human beings, and even more so for teenagers, and you're stuck with your phone, and the way the algorithms and all this stuff is working with phones and stuff, they're constantly getting fed certain information, and man, there's a whole world of stuff out there that you don't know how it's going to affect people mentally down the road. But I think we do need to start either monitoring it, looking at it, and kind of controlling that. And then the last thing is, parents got to be okay with letting their kids figure out how to fail. You don't grow, failure is not a bad thing. You're not going to win every game. You're not going to win. It's not the end of the world when you lose a game, and having to deal with that, having to deal with a loss, having to deal with the loss of a family member at a young age. They all deal with it differently. It's much worse on adults, if you ask me, because our feelings are different. We feel for the person that we just lost or is going through something. We can feel the pain for them, whereas teenagers, they're not quite there yet. Again, the frontal lobe deal. They're, so it's going to be interesting to find solutions to deal with coping strategies, for these young people.
Yes, no, I totally agree. And you bring up a valid point about the losing aspect and learning from that. There is great learning in losing. And so is there anything in particular that you do right now or that you have done this past season with your athletes as far as helping them to bounce back from a loss?
Yeah, you got to forget about it quick. Okay, you got to have a short memory when it comes to that kind of stuff. That's the thing. We call it, if it's during the game and somebody makes a mistake, we kind of call it next play. Got to get to the next play. If it's after a loss, a season-ending loss, where the season's over now, like in the playoffs, and the people that are going to graduate, it's their last high school game, you got to give them space to grieve. They're not listening to too much of what you say anyway when they're grieving like that, because it's finally hit them, right? To end. That's it. No more high school career. The other guys, they don't take it as seriously because, again, they're teenagers and they don't understand how to experience loss too much. Every now and then you'll find a young one, it hurts them so bad they're crying, and you just let them grieve. You got to be able to let them grieve a little bit. We got to get away from that. Stop crying. You're not a sissy. And just let them express themselves the way they need to, and just be there for them. Talk them through there. What can, once it may take till the next day, right? And then you can start, or whenever they're ready, then you can start going back and saying, all right, what did we do wrong? What could we have done? And you try to learn from it. That's all you can do. You just try to learn from it and get to a point mentally where you're okay. Okay, man, you know what? I gave it. Did you give it your all, right? Well, if you didn't give it your all, this is the result. Look how you feel now. Do you ever want to feel that again? Okay, what can you do to prevent that? And just try to open up these different doors and ideas so that when it happens again in different areas of their life, they can deal with it a little bit better. Because it's going to happen. And it ain't if, it's when, right? They're growing up fast. They're going to experience reject at some point or another. And if they don't understand how to feel it, or this is a big one, especially depending on where you live. You live in the suburbs, this is huge. If you're used to somebody picking you up all the time, they have to pick up themselves. You're there for support, okay? You gotta let them figure it out, and that's a hard part for a parent. It's hard. It's hard when my daughter's out there competing in club soccer, and she's getting knocked down everywhere, and she's laying on the ground. And all the parents are saying, you going to go get her? No, I'm not going to go get her. She's going to get up and shake it off and play. I'll know, when your child is seriously hurt. And if she just needs to shake it off. And I think if they know that, and I know I probably sound like a hard-nosed dad or coach or whatever, but it's just part of it. You got to teach them how to get up and stand on their own 2 feet.
I think that with the social media aspect, in regards to parenting and a number of things, parents do think that if they're not doing it this way or a certain way or this person's way, then they're doing it wrong. So I do believe that your way and how you parent and how, like I said, and like you're saying in those instances where you're sitting there, kind of, looking for her, they don't know mentally you're saying, get up, and then she does that, but you are giving her that space to get up on her own and to figure it out and to grow. So I do think that is something that a lot of parents definitely probably want to do, but they're afraid to do it. So I think maybe hearing you do it, this may help them to kind of be a little bit more or feel a little bit more easy to a little bit of ease, I guess, to do it. So that is definitely good to know. So I know you've mentioned or you've said that, this is not the end of your journey. You are definitely just kind of just flourishing in your season. So where do you see yourself growing even outside of this? Or do you see anything else outside of?
Ooh, man, I don't know. I really enjoy what I do. I still have the fire inside to try to. I enjoy each year the challenge of putting a team together and trying to make it the best in the state. And it doesn't always work out that way, and my mind works a little different. So I just enjoy putting the puzzle together, and seeing what can come out. It's just a challenge. That challenge itself, I think, drives me to keep doing it. And until I lose that fire, there's really nothing else I enjoy doing. I can sit in the gym all day, and I like watching kids compete. So it just so happens it's basketball, but it's any sport. I don't mind watching kids or even adults compete. It's just one of the things that we do. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I'll coach until I just feel like I can't do it anymore. But, God willing, I stay, healthy, physically and mentally, sharp enough to where I can continue to learn and grow, because I'm still growing too. I'm evolving. I'm not perfect. There's areas in my coaching life and in my family life that I got to get better at. I got to be a better husband. I got to be a better father. I got to be a better coach. I got to be a better teacher. I got to learn how to empathize more. All of that. I'm a project that's God's constantly working on me to be the best that I can be, and I'm not hurried to get to the end. So, I'm just gonna keep on moving as long as He keeps blessing me.
Yes, absolutely, and that's good to hear. And so, being that you have one of the best programs in the state, if not country, does that add any pressure to you each year or each school term to add something better or tweak something, or just kind of keep keep doing the same thing that you've been doing?
That's a tough one. That's what people don't understand. They look at it and it looks really easy to be a contender every year, be really good every year, and somebody's always hunting you. Somebody's always, how hard that is. And so, and it's not even so much for me, but like the kids, I'm like, y'all don't even realize what you're getting into. Because when you walk into a gym in another city, or even this city alone, the name on your chest speaks volumes, and people are going to give you their best shot, and there's several schools in the state that are like that, and we just so happen to be one of them. Nobody's going to take you lightly. They're going to try to knock your block off, and so you have to be ready for that. And to be ready for that, you got to train a certain way, you got to practice a certain way, you got to take things just a little bit more seriously so that you can uphold the expectations of the program, and I have a saying with our guys: nobody's bigger than the program, not even me, not a player, not a coach. Even though we built it, nobody's bigger than the A. I say it all the time, standing right here talking to them, and that's what we play for, and we teach them to play for the name on their chest. And so, it's just how we do it. It's how I was taught. It's a special thing to be an Atascocita basketball player, and we want them to feel that. We want them to understand that only a few get to come through these doors and play on this floor. And so when we're on this floor, we want to do our absolute best to make sure that the product meets the expectation.
That information can help the next kid. There may be a kid out there that is, looking to, get in your program, next year or the year after, so on and so forth. So I'm glad to know that you help to prepare your players mentally as well as physically, because that is definitely something that is going to help them go much farther in life, instead of just, looking at the physical aspect of it. So like I said, I want to thank you again for sitting down with me on today's episode of The Sit Down, and I look forward to maybe working with you in the future.
Well, thank you, Brooke. I was glad to be here. I had a good time. Thank you.